Hello there and welcome to today's video. So this time we were taking a look through another 100 or so vintage pan books and giving them a really good clean and polish and brush off, getting them tip top and looking good for the collection. So sit back, relax and let's get to it. Right then, so we start off with number 136, and just so you know historically and date-wise what we're dealing with here, it's going to be this one was first published in 1950. Now, pretty much on the whole, all of these pan books are first editions, and all I'm going to do, because as I said, we're going to get about, about 60 or 70, maybe not even that many in actual fact, but basically, and I'll pop a picture up on the screen now, this is like one shelf or one box load of vintage pan books, and I'm doing these sort of a shelf at a time. So that was at Rose Anstey. This is a Beverly Nichols, Down the Garden Path. Oh, this is a nice tight one. And basically, that's got a little read and return element, and it's the Tavistock Pannier Market, which is actually fairly close to me, 22p. What I'm doing with each book, and if you've seen any of my videos, you'll know the score with this is I'm just sort of flicking through them initially, making sure there's no sort of turned over pages or any writing inside. Then I'm going to brush the top edges off because often these are really dusty and dirty. And then I'm going to give the covers a bit of a polish as well. So this is a nice one, isn't it? This is an early May Grey. May Grey to the rescue. Cinnamon. This is a Pan 138. Yeah, this is a nice one. On my other channel, I am just waiting to fill in. I need about 10 or so Penguin Simonons, vintage ones. This is, when I say vintage, I mean pre sort of 1970. And then I'm going to do a dedicated video on Simonon in vintage paperback, and I think it should be pretty good. Peter Cheney, another cry one here. Sorry you've been troubled. Certainly not in pristine condition, this one. This one looks a little bit worn. And you do find with crime titles in particular, they do tend to get read and then reread many times. And they just tend to just get more battered up and beaten up than other books which weren't crime titles. They just seem to get maybe passed around amongst other sort of readers, and they would just get a little bit more worn than your average sort of fiction book, just in my experience. So if you find a crime title and it's in particularly nice nick, then you've done very well. In my experience, the best ones I've ever found, condition-wise, for crime books have been from someone who was like the original owner. They bought them when they were brand new. They maybe read them once or twice, and then they've ended up in that collection, and they've not sort of been through the second-hand market where they go through various like second-hand bookstores, read, returned. So I got a couple of copies of this one. This is an Edgar Wallace. And yeah, this one here is a reprint, and that one there is the first edition. So I've just kept it because it's a very slight cover variant. This is 1 and 6. It's got the line above and below the title, and that's the line's white now. The price has gone up to 2 shillings from 1 and 6. It's just a little variant. I'm not mad about variants. Usually I collect them if the covers are significantly different. That one's not particularly different, but it is quite nice condition, so it warrants a second to be a second copy in the collection. Now, none of those needed any work. The spines were all good and there was no writing inside, but what they do need, and I'll do this as we go through first time round, is I'm going to give the edges a brush rather, with my shoe brush here. So I found recently, rather than using the toothbrush, see there was loads came off there, rather than using my toothbrush, doing it with this like soft shoe brush, in actual fact seems to be getting off more dust and dirt than the toothbrush on its own. So I've sort of changed recently to doing it with this, and I think it is making a difference. Obviously something like this one here, where the top, as you can see, it's sort of mottled, and it's got well, at some point some sort of damp has got into that one, and it's caused some spotting and foxing, and there's really not a lot I can do about that. Unfortunately, it's not going to come off. I could if I was so inclined, I could sand it down, but I've had mixed success with that, and it's not something I like to do with books per se, not unless there's a particularly bad blemish that I want to get sorted out. But anyway, that's the first little wedge there. That's it. We've got about, I don't know, 70 or 80 to go through, something like that. We've got 143, the Black Venus, Rhys Davis. This is a bit of a mucky one that I'm hoping when I once we've been through these and I do the polishing stage, I would hope that some of that muck would come up, but to be honest, I think it might be a little too far gone for it to make much difference, but you never know. Sailing alone around the world. It's funny, I haven't looked at some of these for quite a long time, and I'd forgotten some of the titles. The Death Ship, Novels of Sailors' Adventures, B. Tavern. Oh, that's had a bit of action on the back there, a little bit worn. Yeah, a little bit frayed, that particular one. I might add that to my wants list. So as I go through and when I edit these, books that I come across that I think I'd like better copies of, I'm just making a little note of. Because now that I've finished this particular run, then it's the never-ending task of upgrading the copies that you have got. And that seems to be the way with most book collectors. So I'm just happy to have a set, don't get me wrong. I'm over the moon to have actually licked this, but it's always nice to upgrade. So this one is on my list because look at the spine, it's completely faded, and it should be that orangey colour there. So that's not the sort of one which would be tricky to track down, but it's the sort of book that you're going to need to wait until a better one turns up. In fact, I've written the series number in there, 148, and someone else has. So that means it's easier for me to know where it is chronologically, so I'm not going to rub that 148 out. Anthony Trollope here, 149. Dr. Thorndyke's Casebook, another nice crime one for Pan 150, mini anniversary. Nice, quite light white pages on this one compared to some of the other ones. Yeah, so far I've done pretty good, I think, in that these have pretty much been in nice nick. Yeah, they've not needed a lot of work, but they have needed a good dust. So God, it is really incredible what comes off these. So as I film this, the new channel, God blimey, the dust. The new channel is doing very well, and we're at almost 400 subscribers now, which is fantastic. I'd like to get us up to 1,000. That would be brilliant. And it is obviously, this is very much a companion to my main channel, but it's just something that I find so relaxing, and as do my patrons and channel members. Most of them join these days because they like these sort of book cleaning videos, and they do find them relaxing, and that to me is fantastic, and believe me, I really enjoy making them. Now, I've just noticed that one of these, that one there, has got a bit of spine which has it's not come away, but it's just lifting there. And I think what I'd like to do is get my get a little slither of Pritt stick down that one to stop it getting any worse. So I just use this flathead screwdriver, just get a slither along the top there like that. Just want to try and slide it in like so. There we are. That's literally gone in as the one piece. And squish it down a bit. Now, a little bit's come out there, but that's absolutely fine, because with Pritt stick, you just sort of wipe it off with your hand, and it just sort of goes into nothingness. There we are, but that's just going to stop the bottom of that spine getting any worse, you know. So that's good news. Yeah, so that's those ones done. This is an early pan western by Max Brand. Destry Rides Again. And this has got a laminated cover, so this one's going to come up really nice, actually. And even at this point, yeah, this is 1950, Pan were still having some books printed on the continent and then shipped over. This is an early horror anthology, a book of uncanny stories told in the dark. And on the whole, these have been very, very, they haven't needed a lot of work. They've been in really nice condition on the whole. Just dusty. But I do love checking through, and I've got many, many shelves to get through just on the pans alone. But as you know, if you've been watching the channel, I do try and mix it up. So I'll do pans, a week of pans, and I'll do the next week I'll do some penguins. Then I'll check another publisher who I've not touched at all. I have recently just acquired a run of Albatross paperbacks and also some vintage Hutchinson books. So, and all of those are going to need real repair jobs on. So look out for them, either on this channel or my other one. I might actually do them on this channel as a little exclusive and tease it on my other channel instead. That might be quite fun. Cool. Last one in this little stack, James Hilton. They're all okay. So very, very pleased with these. Let's break them into two wedges and give them the brush. Let's get this other wedge. So one thing I have had a little thought about, I'm not sure if you're aware, but I am in the process of building a dedicated studio to film all my videos in going forward. And I'd say it's in the closing stages now. It's just doing the last sort of parts to soundproof it. So I get really, really nice audio, which is what I'm aiming for. Really, really quiet with no background noise. And so it needs to be soundproofed, and then I just need to build the set basically, which isn't going to be too much issue. But once that's done, I am thinking I might do a live stream where I do a live book repair and cleaning video whilst I'm answering some questions from people who are watching. So I think that might be pretty good fun, and I can sort of do two things at once basically. So this one needs a good rub out. So what I'll do when that's going to happen, I shall let everyone know, and then if you can come in live, you can ask me some questions, and I'll clean the books and I'll answer the questions at the same time, and I think it'll be quite interesting. So I'm always getting stacks of questions come in. So if you've got something burning that you'd like me to answer in like long form rather than just in a comment, drop it in. Well, there we are. This one had an old 40p in or something, so that's come off quite nicely. Judge's Story. So that was one that I must have had for quite some time and has never been cleaned. Here's another copy of it, but this is the 2 shilling version, which has got a slightly different cover. So once again, I'm going down a slippery slope really. I'm not going to try and collect them all, but if it's a significantly different cover, I'll probably pick it up if it ends up coming my way. I'm not going to sort of get a shot of it, just for a bit of variety. But there's not many books I've got doubles of. Some of the Agatha Christie's and that I have, because She's a favourite author, and if the covers are different, I will pick those up. And in fact, that literally is this. This is a particularly nice copy of Murder is Easy. It's got a little 350 inside, so I better get that out. This is the first then from 1951. It's got a tiny £3.50 in the corner. I never paid that. In fact, I don't really remember where this one came from. I think it was in a little job lot. It's a really nice copy of that one. And then I've got another one here. This is a much later one. This is 2 shillings. Completely different cover to the original that we saw there, but still the same pan number. Yeah, this is 1954 edition, this one. And I put a 161 in there myself to let me know, because the number's almost illegible down the bottom there. But there's another instance of 2 different covers. So let's give that little wedge a brush. Now once again, as I've been brushing these, I've come across one which looks like it needs a bit of glue in the spine. But this one in the middle was particularly bad, so I'm just making sure they're really, really clean. Yeah, so it's this one here, Escape to Quebec. Do you see that there, where if you push it in, the top of the spine's lifted out? So I just want to get a bit of glue in that top of the spine, just to keep it in place. There we are. Squeeze that in. Because that's the sort of thing that could get caught and then be made even worse. There we are. I think that just looks better. Lovely. So we're getting through these at quite a pace. Now I'm just going to pull the camera out just a tiny bit. Okay, so good English, how to write it, G.H. Vallens, which is a really nice copy, except the cover's got the corner cut where the price would have been, which is a bit of a shame, but yeah, not the end of the world. 163 here, King Solomon's Mines, bit of a classic that, isn't it? Hell and High Water, another Western. Cool. And now this one's quite worn. Moondrop to Gascony. Yeah, this one has been read a few times. Very, very brittle, this copy. Look on the spine there. So I think that's going to go on my list of ones to upgrade. Try and find a better copy of that one. Oh, here is a reprint of this one. The same book, different cover. So I've got a reprint of it. I'm just missing the first. The reprint has got a big 20p there. It's dated the 8th of April, 1993. Maybe that's when the person who had this before picked up their copy of it. I'm guessing. Who can tell? There we are. So there's the two covers. I think the one on the right, the later one, much, much better than that original one. I think we're about halfway through the books that we're going to be doing today, maybe a little bit further. I said once they've been all through like this and been brushed and sorted and given the once over, I will then just give them a cursory polish at the end. Some of them will need it, some of them won't, but it's just sort of the finishing touch. Book on Churchill. Another one which is a little bit low grade than I would like it. As you can see, it's almost like falling apart. Look, oh, in actual fact, look at this. Oh dear, we're going to have to fix that, aren't we? So, in a case such as this, it's pretty difficult. I think I don't want to pull the full cover off, so I think what I'm going to do, let's just get these two out of the way, so we've got a little bit of room, and then I'm going to need to re-glue that cover back in. Right, so I can't take the whole cover off without, I don't think, causing even more damage. So it's quite a tricky one. So let me just get the camera so you can have a good look at what's going on. Here we are. So this is a bit of a tricky one because the actual cover is torn all the way along there. And this is the remnants of the inside where it's been glued. So I could tactically glue it all back in so it's much tighter, and then just live with that spine split. Because if I put some sort of paper inside, it's just not going to look very good. I shall just repair that, I think, by gluing it down as best I can, and then I'll just put it on my wants list as one that I'd like to eventually upgrade, because I don't think there's a lot else I can do with this particular one. Yeah, I could say I'm toying with the idea of putting a bit of paper down the spine there, but I just don't think it's worth it, because it's not exactly a mega collectible or anything like that. So we'll give the entire spine a good bit of glue first of all. And we want to get some on this edge here. Like so. And then we need to pay some particular attention to the top and bottom edges, because that's where it's particularly bad. And then I'm going to put some extra glue on this bottom flap here, because I want that to be in dead solid. Okay, so that's as sticky as we're going to make it. Going from the sort of the left to the right there. Yeah. So it's still going to have that bit of spine which is missing there down in the bottom. That's where it was cut. But the only way to really sort that out would have been to put a bit of red coloured paper underneath and glued it together, and it's really not worth that. I mean, this will be a filler copy until a better one comes along, but at least that's going to stop it getting any worse. And that's actually done a pretty good job of putting that spine back in place, at least for the time being. Once that glue goes off, that'll be quite nice. At least it's not going to fall to bits in your hand. At least we hope not. Okay, under the red robe. There's a very, very small 9 there, and I don't know if it's in pencil or pen. Let's see if it makes any difference at all. Yeah, it's going. So it looks like it must have been in a tiny, very light pencil. There we are, that 9's gone now, that's pretty good. Pleased with that. The Body on the Beam, Anthony Gilbert. Yes, as I've said in my previous videos, if you are able to share these on either your social media or possibly share them onto one of the ASMR Reddit groups, I'd be very, very pleased, or Unintentional ASMR Reddit groups, because it does expand the audience a bit and help spread the word, which is what it's all about. There we are, so that's those okay. So bearing in mind that one at the end there, which we repaired, I'm going to be quite careful giving these the brush off. Quite a bit of dust coming off some of them. There we are. Good stuff. Now we've got one more stack to get through, so let's just have a little tidy up here. Okay, Murder in Trinidad. Wow. This is a worn old copy. This one's going to go on my 1-2 upgrade list. This is very, very tatty. But I'm sure there's a better one out there waiting for me. I'm not even going to try and repair that. It's just literally a placeholder until a better one should come along. Tiger Man, not the Tiger King, Tiger Man. That's another one, not in particularly great shape. And it's a shame, but the actual pans themselves aren't the best made around this period. Another Western, Forlorn River. It's like they got a bit cheap. Maybe they've stopped being made in the continent. They're being made in Britain now. And, you know, the actual production costs have gone up a little bit. Another Agatha Christie there, Cards on the Table. Conan Doyle, first one of those I think we've seen. The Valley of Fear. Certainly like the works of the Sherlock Holmes stories. They're fantastic. Obviously quite dated nowadays when you read them, but the stories themselves are great. If you don't fancy reading them, I heartily recommend the Jeremy Granada TV adaptation from 84 to 94, I think it ran. A superb series. Such a shame they never got around to doing them all. Cool. That made a big difference in some of those. Let's put this last pile over here because we're almost done on what we're going to be looking at today. Got about another dozen or so here to get through. Mistral Hotel, Stephen Lister. Okay. Spectre McLean's Holiday. These crime ones, you know, they're really quite sought after nowadays. Austin Freeman. Shadow Rider. Ten English Love Stories. Oh dear. I'm sorry, but I'm just not going to be reading that one. But none of them seem too bad. They do seem, the edges seem a bit dirty, but let's give them a really good Yeah. Whew, lots of dust, lots of dust coming off there. Wow, still coming off. They made a big difference to those books, believe it or not. They've really, really sharpened them up. Right. The Sea Tower, 183, another love story, it says. Hugh Walpole. Okay. The Great Impersonation, Oppenheim. Famous Secret Service novel. Okay. That's got a little bit of vintage bookshop annotation in there, so we get that out there. Don't need that. And a little 1 shilling by the look of it as well. So that looks like it did go through the second-hand system at one point anyway. Oh, this is a favourite of mine. The Maltese Falcon, Dashiell Hammett. Very, very nice book. Absolute classic, the first British paperback edition of that one. Mazza de la Roche. Did the White Oak series. I've got a few of them in this pan run. Magnificent Obsession. These are all pretty nice copies, you know. This is number 188. 189 is The Provincial Lady, E.N. Delafield. And then the last one we've got is 7 Short Plays, number 190. This is dated 1951, so we've sort of done all the books we've looked at today are from 1950 to 51. Let's just split those into 2 wedges and give these bits a little clean. Lovely. And this last little wedge here, give them a brush. Once again, it's usually the top edges where books have been stored. That's where the dust settles. There we are. Brilliant. So that's all the books we're going to be looking at today. So I'm just going to clear the decks and then we shall start shining with Mr. Sheen. Right then, so first book's ready. Got my soft cloth and I got my tin of Mr. Sheen. So let's blob a bit on. And I did ask on one of my videos if anyone knew what the American equivalent of Mr. Sheen was, and someone wrote back and said Pledge. Now we've got Pledge in the UK, but I'm guessing that it must be a brand which is available on both sides of the Atlantic. So if you are in the States and you want to be doing this yourself, Pledge might be the way. Now look at that, one book, and look at the muck that's come off there on the spine. And that's because, although you couldn't really see it, there was a level that's been on the shelf, and then there's been people smoking, and possibly in the days of open fires, coal fires as well, and the soot and nicotine and smoke has got on the spines of these books and it's stained them. And in some cases what we're doing here is we're getting rid of almost like invisible grime and fingerprint marks and people's dirt that's accumulated over these 70-year-old books. Let's not forget, these are now, in fact, they're over 70 years old. And in that time, you know, they're gonna get dirty. Look, that's 2 books. Look at the dirt off it. And that's why we do this, because I want my books on my shelf. When I pick them up, I don't want them to be dirty and horrible. I like them to be at least clean and, you know, readable. I want to be able to pick up a book and read it. So that is why I give I'm giving these books the treatment, and we're at a period now in pan history where the covers, generally speaking, are glossy, so they're really, really easy to clean up. And when they do clean up, they come up really well like that, you know. That's pretty nice, that. And look at the muck. That's 3 books only, and we've got all that muck off, so that's why we do it. And all I shall do is work my way around along the edges here, so I'm not rubbing dirt back into the books again, because that wouldn't be very good. Some of these you just have to be very careful with. They're not all shiny covers. That May Grey one isn't, so I need to be very gentle with that. This one is a fairly shiny laminated cover. That one's not too bad. Lovely. Yeah, it certainly is a long old process going through every single book, shelf by shelf, but at least I know when the job is done. And when I get new books, I'm just building on a collection which has generally seen, you know, it's been treated well, and they've generally been sort of through the process. But there's so much in my collection that's never been cleaned. And although I've upgraded books as I've gone along, there's still a percentage, like we saw today, which have never had, I've had them for so long, they've never been sort of looked after or had the treatment. And because of that, that's why I'm going through. But also, it does give me another chance to look at the books again, which I just love doing, and reminds me why I collect them in the first place, is because there's some blooming lovely books here. And ultimately that's what it's all about. Of course, if you are into pan books, there is a fantastic website run by my friend Tim, and it's called ticket.net, and it's a site devoted to pan, and it goes right up to the 70s and beyond in some series, and it's got all the covers scanned in, lots of memorabilia and merchandise and original artwork and little pieces on the different authors. And if you are interested in collecting pans, it's definitely your #1 destination online, outside of my videos, of course. There we are. So that's the first of 4 stacks, all cleaned and polished and looking groovy, which is excellent news. Pile number 2, let's give a bit more polish on here. The Saint, I think we only saw the one Saint book today, didn't we? The Saint Intervenes. I really quite like Leslie Charteris. He's a great author. The Saint books I haven't dated as badly as you might think. So if you're on the fence, just read a couple, because they're generally short stories, or like a book like this might have 3 stories inside, which might be loosely connected, or they might just be completely individual. But definitely, if you've never tried a Saint book, I recommend them. They were popular right up until about the 80s and 90s, and then they started to die off a bit after that. But they're actually not bad. I said some of the more delicate ones, you need to be quite careful when you clean them. I don't want to make the spines any worse or cause them to chip or anything like that, worse than they already are in some of these cases. But these ones with the yellow backs, these do seem to lighten up when you give them a bit of a polish. You know, you're taking off sort of dirty fingerprints, and muck like that shows up all the more on like a yellow or a light coloured book. That's a really nice little addition, that one. The pages are still quite supple and white. It's been stored in a good environment, and it's only been read maybe once, so it's got lots of good stuff going for it, that, you know. But sadly, not all the books can be like that. So if you're a collector, you take what you can. So yeah, as I was saying, the new studio is almost there, and then I think it would be quite fun to do some book cleaning live. See how we get on. I don't think it'd be too nerve-wracking, do you? And I'll try and answer some questions while I'm doing it to keep it interesting, so you've got interesting stuff to look at, and also hopefully I've got some interesting questions to answer. But it's been cool. Look at that. Just come off that, just from that spine there. Look at that. Look at that. That is just incredible, isn't it? It just shows how dirty these were. And that's, you see that yellow tinting on it? That's just blimmin' cigarette smoke that's stained the books. So that's been in a room which is, you know, someone at some point was a smoker, you know, which, let's be honest, most people were back in the day. When this was published in 1950, a lot of people smoked. And it's been on the shelf, and it's just got itself into a bit of a sorry old state. How times have changed, eh? Let's just round them all up like so. Let's slip that over there. And if you're hungry to see more of this sort of cleaning, when I get new acquisitions every single month without fail, I do a video of my latest vintage pickups, new acquisitions, and I give them all a clean, and I have a look through them and see what's come my way in the past month or so. And they're often some of my most popular videos. And sometimes it gives you ideas about what you might like to collect if you're out and about searching for vintage paperbacks. I think it's always cool to see what other people are buying, as well as, you know, learning perhaps a little bit more about what you might want to buy yourself. I I've done a couple of videos so far on sort of the magical world of collecting vintage paperbacks, because there's so much out there. Everyone can collect the sort of books that they like, or the sort of series that they like, or the genres that they like, or a particular author or particular publisher, particular cover artist. It's just endless, the amount of variety that you can have if you collect vintage paperbacks, and that's why I love this hobby. I really, really do. And as long as you're collecting stuff that you actually love and enjoy, then you're never going to go wrong. And you'll never, ever be short of something to read. So I've sort of said to my wife, I said, you know, when I get older, as I get older, I should be getting rid of all the toys and memorabilia and things like that. And the last thing that will be left in my retirement will be, in my old age, will be my book collection, because I intend to do so much reading. Because it's just something I've always loved doing. Here we are, last one for this second stack, and then we're halfway through all the polishing. There we go. So that's stack number 2. And they're looking very nice, quite nice and bright. Those, they've really benefited from being polished up like that, which is exactly why we're doing this. So these are really stand out on the shelf now. Just a shame that I've got, you know, a couple of like dogs, as it were, but that's okay. As I said, if you're a book collector, you're forever on the upgrade hunt, all the time, you know. Even if you've got the best collection in the world, there's always one copy that you'd like to be a bit better. Agatha Christie's, I do enjoy collecting Christie as an author. Must have had some of her books. I must have, I kid you not, maybe 5 or 6 different editions of the same book. Pan alone did like 3 or 4 editions of some of them. Then you got the Penguin ones, and you got ones from the Collins Crime Club, and the Albatross ones. It's Fontana. It's never ending. This is that one with the cut corner, but apart from that, it's a really nice copy. Definitely unread, as you find some of these like non-fiction titles are. I'm sure someone bought it with the best of intentions, but then never read it. Now, one other thing you can do if you'd like to support the channel and help me make even more videos is you could either join my Patreon, or you could become a YouTube channel member on my other channel. So in the description down below, you will see the link to both. So you can hit that and go and join my Patreon from as little as $1 or £1 a day. And you'd be helping the channel there, and you'll get a credit going forward on every single video that I put out on both channels. So that's something I've just started in. So every single patron going forward will get an on-screen credit in my videos as long as they're a continuing patron. Okay, so that's something that I've just started. So any tier, even if it's just £1 or $1 a day, you're going to get an on-screen credit, and you'll have my very special thanks for supporting the channel. I really do appreciate it. And you'll be joining, I don't know, probably 20 odd people now who do support me in that way. Maybe a bit more, I don't know. I think it probably is 20 odd now, between 20 and 30 people. I don't make anything on this channel at all, personally. I'm just doing the videos out of the love of my heart. But on my other channel, which has been monetized for a couple of years, I do make a small amount of money, and we're certainly not talking I'm booking my retirement or buying a new Rolls Royce. Okay, so but it's enough, let's put it that way, for me to keep doing it. I do this out of the love anyway, and I think I should stress that I'd be doing this if I wasn't getting any money. Perhaps not as religiously, but I definitely would still be doing this process and sharing it with you. But if you can support me, because as I said, YouTube don't exactly pay a lot of money on advertising to creators. If you can support me for a little bit, that would be absolutely cool, and you'll get your credit on both channels' videos going forward. And I think that's probably a perfect time to play my current Patreon and channel members. So I shall be back after this break. There we are. So thank you very much, patrons and channel members. You are helping keep the channel alive. Very, very much appreciated. Some of my patrons, they've been supporting me for, like 2 years or something. It's just incredible. So I'm so encouraged by that. And, the interactions I have with my patrons is brilliant, and channel members. Just superb. They're such great people. Sometimes people, they're not even interested in the books, but they just find it interesting to learn about them, and I think that's really cool, and get so much encouragement from my patrons about the content. Yes, so it really does mean an awful lot. See a few bits of dirt coming up off this one. It's really made quite a difference on that front cover there. Ooh, that was another one with lots of invisible dirt on. But there we are. That's stack number 3 of the 4. So we got our last little wedge to do, and that'll be another nice wedge of Pan books sorted and ready to go back on the shelf. And I'll be back in about 3 weeks to do the next batch of these. Now this is one of those ones that was particularly rotten, wasn't it? So we'll just very gently do that. There's literally nothing I can do with that, so I'm not even going to take that any further. A few of these around this sort of period were slightly delicate, so be on sort of best, I'll be on my guard, as it were, with these. Yes, I do hope you've enjoyed the selection of classic Pan books. As we go through the numbers, we're going to be getting, I think the numbered only series went up until sort of mid to late 1950s, and by that point then all the books were Pan giants or great Pans, and some of the other numbers. So as we go along, I think the cover design will just get better and better and better as we go through the numbers. But overall, this time round, the pans weren't too bad. There was a couple of little dogs in here, wasn't there, which needed a bit of extra attention. But on the whole, these weren't too bad, and I think that's because so many of these pans came to me fairly recently, and I did give them a clean when I first got them. But it was the stuff that was already in my collection has never ever been cleaned, not in the way that I do it today. And for that reason alone, it's nice to go through. And also, as I said, when I edit these videos, books that I come across now, which I've got, but they're basically placeholders, they're just filler copies, just until a better one comes along. I'm making a note of those numbers now so I can start the process of looking to upgrade them. Or if I'm looking at a big box of pan books, if I go through them, check the numbers and I see there's a nice batch in there that I'm looking for nice copies of, then it might persuade me to buy a little job lot that possibly I might have overlooked prior to that. And that's another reason why I do this, because I'm doing exactly the same with my penguin books. There was loads of penguins that I've found since that I thought, oh, after all these years, I wish I had a better copy of that. And I'm using it as an opportunity to find out exactly the condition of some of my books, you know. Some stuff I may not want to upgrade, like 10 English love stories. But sadly, all good things come to an end. And I'm just on the last handful of books now. So yeah, I do hope you've enjoyed today's episode. I enjoyed seeing some of these, this little glimpse of the pan books from 1950 and 1951. Certainly there were some really, really nice titles in here. So, I mean, the Agatha Christie's were lovely, weren't they? Certainly enjoy those. But we've got nothing but even greater books to come as we work our way through the numbers. And if you've not already, do go and have a look at my main channel, Jules Barrett's Collections and Unboxings, where you'll find lots of these book cleaning videos on all manner of subjects. I've got some toy cleaning videos as well, which might make their way over here in the archive videos, which are every other Saturday. And I'm going to keep those archive videos going for the time being, just until I've built up enough content and that this channel is then monetized at 1,000 subscribers. Then I'll try and develop a brand new video here every single week going forward. That would be my plan. So if you're on the fence about subscribing, do hit the subscribe button here right now, and it really will help out. And if you can spread the word, as I said, online, on the ASMR Reddit groups, things like that, it can be really, really fantastic to get a personal recommendation from someone. It makes all the difference. There we are. Brilliant. And that is it. So there you go. There are all the books cleaned and looking fantastic and ready to go back into my collection. I do hope you've enjoyed the process. As I said, if you've not ever hit the subscribe button before, do please do it on this particular channel, and do check out my other channel as well if you're looking for similar sort of content. Thank you very much for watching today, and I'll look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye.